You'll look up one night and see it. The sky won't look the same anymore, and that will be the beginning. My name is Kale Orion, and I was shown what's coming. Not in a dream, not in a vision, but in the in-between space where time bends. The Pleiadians called it the catalyst. The Arcturians confirmed, Earth is no longer waiting. A frequency wave has already been released. What you know now will begin to dissolve, and something ancient will return. If you've been feeling different, you're not imagining it. This is the story of what will happen and how it begins. The sky blinked, I whispered to myself. It blinked, and I felt it inside my bones. I was standing on the roof that night, just past 2:33 a.m. I remember the exact time because my phone had glitched a second before it happened. No notifications, no Wi-Fi, just static. And then, boom. The stars pulsed, not flickered, not twinkled, pulsed, as if they were breathing, as if something alive was watching back. I clutched the edge of the railing, barely breathing. I didn't need anyone to explain it. I already knew. The Pleiadians had prepared me for this. Months ago, during a meditative trance, they told me, when the sky pulses, the energy of the collective mind will crack open. That is the first sign. The earth will no longer be in waiting. But feeling it, seeing it with my own eyes, that was different. It wasn't just the sky. It was like my heart had been turned inside out. And it didn't stop. The light came in waves, almost invisible at first, but it wrapped around the clouds like silk, soft and iridescent, like some higher frequency was slipping into our world without permission. And yet, it belonged here. People would wake up the next day and not remember seeing it, but they'd feel anxious for no reason. They'd scroll on their phones, looking for news that wasn't there, sensing something had shifted even if they couldn't name it. That's what the Pleiadians meant when they said the sky would be our mirror. It wasn't just about light. It was about the truth being reflected back at us. I knew the governments would say it was an aurora, a rare magnetic anomaly, something science could swallow and spit back out in data. But those of us who are wired differently, those of us who've been touched by frequencies beyond this dimension, we knew it wasn't just light. That night, I didn't sleep. I laid flat on the rooftop, hands over my chest, watching the heavens move like breath. I wasn't scared. I wasn't confused. I was ready. The sky had pulsed, the switch had flipped, and Earth's awakening had officially begun. You heard it too, didn't you? I asked the woman next to me in the train. Her eyes were wide. She nodded. Neither of us had spoken a word when it happened. The call came at 4:04 p.m. I know, because everyone on the train paused, mid-scroll, mid-sentence, mid-breath. It was like something had vibrated inside our skulls. Not sound, not language, but recognition. A deep hum in the soul that felt like someone knocking on the inside of your chest. I closed my eyes and saw images flash, glyphs, stars, faces I didn't know but loved instantly. One voice, not in words, but in pure presence said, "It has begun." No one panicked. That was the strange part. Even babies stopped crying. The energy was so peaceful, yet massive, like being held by the universe. A collective pause where every soul on that train, maybe across the globe, felt the same thing. You are being remembered. I found myself whispering, I'm not alone. Later that night, I received an incoming transmission while journaling. I didn't write it. My hand moved on its own. It said, the frequency was successful. Souls encoded with crystalline receptors have received the message. Expect emotional release within 72 hours. And that's exactly what happened. My friend Ethan called crying. He said he didn't know why. He just felt overwhelmed with love and grief. Another friend in Brazil texted, I feel like I've lost something I didn't know I had. That's what the call did. It woke up buried codes, hidden knowledge. It didn't use words because words are too small. This was resonance. It didn't tell us to do anything. It reminded us of what we already are. And the beautiful part? Everyone heard it. Even if they didn't understand it yet, it will keep calling, again and again, until no one can deny it. I always thought Earth was just a planet, but I was wrong. Earth is a being. The Pleiadians told me this years ago in a dream, but I didn't believe it until I felt it. It started during meditation, when I suddenly felt a low hum rising through my spine. Not noise, more like awareness. I opened my eyes and looked at the ground. I whispered, "Are you alive?" The ground replied, not in sound, but with emotion. Earth was waking up, and it was calling us. Over the next few days, I noticed the animals acted differently. Birds flew in spirals instead of lines. Dogs barked at empty corners. People started reporting high-pitched tones in their ears, tones that came and went like tides. Then came the message, Gaia is broadcasting a conscious signal. She is no longer asleep. It made sense. Earth had endured centuries of trauma. We took without giving. Now, the soul of the planet was stepping in. And this time, the signal wasn't coming from space. It was coming from within. I found myself being pulled to nature more often. Barefoot walks felt electric. My chest buzzed when I stood near trees. The earth was speaking. She was reestablishing a lost bond with her children. Many would ignore it. They'd blame 5G or ear infections. But the tuned ones, the ones who had been prepared, would feel it clearly. They'd weep without knowing why. They'd dream of forests and oceans. They'd feel like something ancient was asking them to come home. The Arcturians warned, when Gaia speaks, humanity must listen. Her signal will be the heartbeat of the shift. Ignore it and you will feel lost. Align with it and you will remember your place. From this moment forward, the earth will no longer tolerate unconsciousness. She will shake. She will rise. She will pulse until we listen. Because Gaia is fully awake now. I don't know what's happening to me, my sister whispered over the phone, but I think I'm remembering something from before I was born. It began like that. People who had no interest in spirituality, no knowledge of starseeds or timelines, suddenly started knowing. They woke up from dreams and cried. They began seeing patterns, repeating numbers, faces in their memories that didn't belong to this life. I call it the overnight switch, and it will happen in waves. Seemingly random people from all cultures, all walks of life, will wake up with a knowing they cannot explain. I saw it first in Marcus, my neighbor. He was a retired police officer, hard-headed, rational. One morning he showed up at my door and said, "Kyle, do you know what Lemuria is?" I nearly dropped my coffee. That night he had a dream of standing on a crystal shore, speaking to beings made of blue light. He said he felt peace like never before. He knew it wasn't a dream, it was a retrieval. These people won't need books or teachers. The knowledge will emerge from within, like seeds bursting open. They'll speak of timelines, of other lifetimes, of missions and contracts. And they won't know how they know, but they will feel the truth of it in their bones. The Pleiadians call this the second wave, the spontaneous ignition of remembrance in souls who've been dormant. They were always encoded, but now the catalyst has triggered their reawakening. It will be beautiful, but also disorienting. Some will resist. Some will think they're losing their minds. But the ones who surrender, they'll step into alignment almost instantly. So if you know someone who suddenly starts talking about energy, dimensions, or stars that speak, don't mock them. Listen, they are waking up, and they're waking up fast. They won't be able to hide it much longer, I told Elijah. staring at the flickering monitor. The machines are reacting. It started subtly. Airport scanners shutting down without cause. Surveillance cameras freezing, always at the same hour. Satellite signals blinking in and out like Morse code from the stars. But only at certain locations. Sacred points on the Earth's energy grid. Ancient temples, ley line intersections, pyramids, even spots in the ocean. The tech didn't just fail, it refused to function. I was at an observatory when it hit me. A deep frequency, undetectable to normal instruments, swept through the area. Everyone's phones turned black. Not off, just black. As if reality paused. The technicians panicked, but I didn't. I placed my palm on the railing and felt it. A hum, not mechanical, organic. The Pleiadians had warned me. When technology bends to the field, the Earth's natural frequency has surpassed artificial intelligence. Consciousness will take precedence over code. I watched as the astronomers rebooted their systems. They couldn't explain the data gaps. The logs simply disappeared. A black box in time. But I knew what had happened. Gaia was rejecting interference. It will become more common. Drones will fall from the sky at certain altitudes. Energy grids will surge in areas previously deemed low voltage. AI systems will hallucinate patterns of sacred geometry and say they're errors. But the biggest shock will be for the engineers, the ones who rely on logic. They will realize that not everything can be explained through algorithms. Some places will become no-tech zones, not by force, but by frequency. Technology that isn't hard-aligned simply won't work there. And when the Arcturians step in, they'll amplify it. They're already preparing to teach us that consciousness can move data without wires, satellites, or screens. The future won't be about faster internet. It will be about interconnection. The malfunctions aren't bugs, they're signals. Earth is rewriting the source code, and the source is conscious. Kyle, I saw her eyes shift. My friend Mira was shaking. 1 second they were brown, then gold, bright gold, and then they changed back. I didn't doubt her. I had seen it too. They're here, always have been, not all in ships. Not all in light. Some have walked beside us for decades, cloaked in human skin, waiting for the signal. They're not hiding out of fear. They've been observing, waiting for humanity to raise its frequency enough to perceive them fully. The catalyst activated a frequency that weakens their cloaking fields, not physically, but energetically. Our eyes will begin to adjust. Our hearts will recognize them before our minds do. You'll feel a strange familiarity with someone you just met, a warmth in the chest, a buzzing in your palms when you shake hands. That's how they'll reveal themselves, through resonance. One of them sat next to me on a park bench last week. She didn't speak at first, just looked at the sky and smiled. Then she whispered, "The veil is thinning." I felt tears come to my eyes for no reason. She turned to me and nodded. "You'll remember us soon. We've always been here. Some are Pleiadian, some are Arcturian, a few are Lyran, Syrian, even Andromedan. Not all look human, but many have adapted forms close enough. They're the ones you feel inexplicably safe around, the ones who show up in your dreams and then your daily life. They'll start guiding people quietly, not as leaders, but as reminders. You'll find your random Uber driver saying something that unlocks your childhood trauma, a cashier telling you something that feels like prophecy. You'll meet a stranger in the library and walk away knowing your soul's mission. That's them. They won't announce themselves. They don't need to. Your soul will know. And once your frequency aligns fully, you won't just recognize them, you'll remember them. From before this life, from before Earth. "I just don't believe in it anymore," my cousin whispered at dinner. "Not like I used to. I feel like something inside me just broke free." It's happening everywhere, quietly, gently, but powerfully. People who once followed religious texts line by line are now asking, why? Devotees are leaving churches, temples, and mosques, not out of rebellion, but out of awakening. They're not angry. They're simply not resonating anymore. The catalyst will trigger this en masse. It won't be forced. There won't be protests or debates, just a silent stepping away, a shift from worshiping externally to connecting internally. Even spiritual communities will feel it. Outdated practices will fall. Gurus will lose their grip. The age of followers is over. The age of embodiment is beginning. I saw it in a friend who once fasted for 40 days just to feel worthy of divine love. Now she meditates by laying in the sun, barefoot on the grass, saying, "God lives in my blood." And she's right. This mass exodus won't be destructive. It will be liberating. People will begin to trust their own experience over doctrine. Children will ask profound questions their parents can't answer. Elders will weep, not from fear, but from remembering what was stolen from them. The Pleiadians say, truth does not require loyalty. It simply invites remembrance. This awakening will not ask for new religions. It will return us to the original temple, the self, the sacred breath, the stillness between thoughts, the connection to all that is. And it won't feel like rejection. It will feel like coming home. The compass keeps spinning, I told my friend, but we're not moving. The Earth's magnetic field is not just a scientific measurement, it's a living map of human consciousness, and it's moving. Not randomly, not dangerously, but deliberately, guided by higher intelligence. You'll begin to notice strange phenomena, birds flying in strange patterns, migratory routes shifting, GPS systems becoming less reliable in certain areas. But beyond the physical, you will feel it too. A sense of disorientation, as if the ground beneath your choices has changed, because it has. The Arcturians warned, when the grid bends, human will bend with it. That is when the heart will lead. I felt it during a road trip. Every plan I made kept shifting. Hotels were fully booked for no reason. Roads were mysteriously closed. But every detour led to someone I needed to meet. Every delay brought healing. The magnetic grid isn't failing, it's aligning. Earth is adjusting her inner compass to point to true resonance, not just geographic north. Places that used to feel like home will suddenly feel heavy. You'll want to move, to relocate. You won't always know why, but your soul will. Many lightworkers will be called to new lands, to deserts, to mountains, to coastlines. Not for vacation, but for grid anchoring. Your presence will stabilize energetic lines. You'll be pulled to places with sacred codes, ancient sites, underground temples, forgotten stone circles. And if you resist, you'll feel restless, lost, pulled in all directions, because your body knows the grid has shifted and it's asking you to move with it. The Earth is realigning her nervous system, and she's inviting you to flow with her evolution, not resist it. "Mama, I used to live on a planet with 2 moons," the little girl said calmly. "We didn't need houses there. We lived in light." I watched her mother freeze. Her hands trembled as she set down the cereal box. "Where did you hear that, baby?" The child tilted her head. "I didn't hear it. I remember it." This will become normal. More and more children will begin speaking of lives beyond Earth, not with imagination, but with startling detail. Not as stories, but as memories. Entire civilizations, constellations, and customs no one taught them will flow from their lips as naturally as nursery rhymes. I remember sitting with a group of first graders for a volunteer program. One boy looked at me and said, "You're not from Earth, are you? Your soul smells like blue fire." His eyes were steady. Ancient. They're the starseed recallers, the crystal-coated ones. the ones who chose to come through after the catalyst. Their souls are unfiltered, their veils are thinner. The frequency is now high enough that their memory retrieval isn't blocked. These are not new souls. They're ancient visitors in tiny bodies. You'll hear them say things like, "The council said we had to come now," or "This is my third Earth," or "The animals used to talk before the humans forgot." And they'll say it with that eerie calm that bypasses logic and goes straight into your bones. Parents will be stunned. Some will be scared. But the awakened ones will understand. These children are the living proof that Earth is not isolated. They are reminders of who we used to be before the density set in. Teachers will struggle to explain their behavior. Some children will speak languages unknown to Earth. Others will draw detailed star maps or chant in tones that activate energy fields. Many will talk about the coming changes not with fear, but excitement. The Pleiadians told me, when the children speak, listen. They hold the memories you forgot you gave them. So if a child looks you in the eye and says, "We used to fly without ships," don't correct them, remember them. Because they're not making it up, they're making it real again. "My body feels like it's burning, but there's no fever," I said out loud, pacing my living room. What the hell is happening to me? The aches, the sudden ringing in the ears, the heat surging through the spine, the vivid dreams, the overwhelming emotions that come in waves. I used to think I was getting sick until the same symptoms started hitting thousands of people around the world, all at once. No virus, no explanation, just energy, the kind that shifts you from the inside out. That's when I remembered what the Arcturian emissary told me in 2023. When the catalyst is initiated, the strands will unlock, dormant codes will awaken, the body will adjust to house more light. It wasn't poetic, it was literal. Our DNA isn't broken or basic, it's layered with dormant potentials. Ancient codes designed to activate only when the soul is ready. And now, humanity's collective soul is ready. People will start feeling exhausted for no reason, even after sleeping, or suddenly crave foods they've never liked, or go through random crying spells, old memories rising like waves from the deep. This isn't illness, this is integration. Some will feel buzzing in the head, hands, or spine. Others will hear tones or frequencies, always when no one else hears them. These are signs of crystalline alignment. The light body is merging with the physical one. That friction causes symptoms, but it also causes transformation. I knew a man who went blind for 12 hours and then suddenly saw auras around everyone afterward. A woman who lost all sense of taste and then began to perceive emotion through color. Another who couldn't feel her legs for a day, but later described levitating during sleep. Doctors will be confused. Nothing will show in scans. But those who know, they'll recognize the signs. These are not random. These are activations. And they will come in waves, triggered by cosmic events, solar flares, alignments, eclipses. Your body isn't failing you, it's upgrading you. And once you surrender to it, you'll begin to sense the new you forming, cell by cell, light woven into matter. "I don't know how to explain it, Kyle," my friend said. "It was a dream, but the symbols were alive, like they breathed. And when I looked at them, I knew things, ancient things." She showed me her notebook. The pages were filled with strange shapes, some curved, some geometric, some glowing in her mind even after waking up. She said it didn't feel like writing. It felt like remembering. This will begin to happen globally. A language will emerge, not spoken, not written in traditional form, but transmitted through light, sound, and feeling. It's already begun in dream time. People across continents drawing the same shapes, repeating the same tones, having the same visions without ever meeting. I experienced it too. One night, I dreamed of standing before a massive crystalline gate. Beings surrounded me, singing, not with mouths, but with symbols that hovered in the air. I didn't understand them with my brain. I absorbed them. And when I woke up, I could feel the meaning in my chest. You are not learning. You are remembering the original language. This language will defy grammar. It will bypass logic. It will communicate across time, space, species. It is the language of the soul, of creation itself. Some will begin to speak it out loud, in glossolalia. Others will write it. Some will even paint it with colors unseen before. It will not be taught in schools. It will be downloaded in solitude, in meditation, in dreams, in silence, and it will unlock information stored in your cells. People will call it the language of light. And the more it's spoken, the more the earth will respond. Nature will vibrate in harmony with it. Animals will react to it. Children will understand it instinctively. The Pleiadians said, the new earth will not be built with blueprints. It will be sung into being. And this language? It's the song. It's out, Elijah texted me at 3:03 a.m. They leaked the files. I sat up, heart pounding. I knew what he meant. And I knew this was only the beginning. What's been hidden for decades, off-world contact, ancient tech, suppressed knowledge, time manipulation, will start flooding out, not from the media, but from within the very systems that once buried it. Whistleblowers will appear in droves, not for money, not for attention, but because their souls can no longer hold the lie. You'll see video footage of craft behaving in ways science can't explain. Ancient sites suddenly discovered with inscriptions older than anything in the textbooks. Audio leaks of transmissions between world leaders and off-planet councils. At first, they'll be dismissed as conspiracy, but they'll keep coming, and the truth will be undeniable. I met one such whistleblower, a man who once worked deep inside a European space agency. He couldn't sleep. Said he kept dreaming of a tall being standing at the foot of his bed, whispering, "It's time." He quit the next day and released everything he knew: maps, frequencies, descriptions of technologies reverse engineered from craft found under the Arctic. And once the Pleiadians confirmed the truth through energetic channels, through mass dreams, group visions, and spiritual downloads, the walls of secrecy will collapse. Governments will scramble. They won't be able to contain it, because the people will already know. Truth isn't just being revealed, it's being remembered. And once remembered, it cannot be unlearned. "Do you feel that?" I whispered, stepping into the stone circle. It's like the air is humming. My feet barely touched the moss-covered ground when it hit me, a deep vibration through my spine. Not from beneath, not above, but from everywhere. The circle pulsed like a heartbeat. That's when I realized the portal was open. These portals, forgotten by time, buried under legend, are not myths. They're real, and they're alive. And now, they're waking up. Stonehenge, Machu Picchu, Uluru, Giza, Göbekli Tepe. Hundreds more hidden beneath the oceans and forest canopies. They were never just monuments, they're gateways. Some lead to higher realms, some to encoded memory fields, others to healing grids outside linear time. The Pleiadians said, these sites are keys. They respond to frequency, not force. When the collective heart reaches harmony, the locks disengage. And we've reached that harmony, just enough to trigger the first wave. I watched it happen in Glastonbury. A group of lightworkers gathered for meditation. As they chanted, the temperature dropped, but the air grew charged. Birds circled silently overhead. Then a beam of light, barely visible like shimmering heat, rose from the ground to the sky. For 12 minutes, time felt different, slower, softer, timeless. People wept, not knowing why. Some collapsed to the ground in bliss. One woman stood frozen, eyes wide, whispering, "I remember. This place used to glow." More sites will awaken in the coming weeks. No switch will be flipped, no announcement made. But the air will thicken, time will warp, electronics will glitch, and those who are ready will feel called to be there, not to do anything, but to witness, to anchor, to receive codes meant to activate their dormant blueprints. These sites are not simply stone, they are sentient, and they've waited eons for our return, not as tourists, but as keepers of the light. "Everything's speeding up," Elijah muttered, flipping through his journal. "But somehow, it also feels softer, like I'm being carried instead of pushed." He was right. Something had shifted. Events were happening faster, but without chaos. Conversations were deeper. Synchronicities became constants. People we hadn't spoken to in years suddenly showed up, completing old lessons. It wasn't coincidence. It was the timeline bending. The Arcturians warned us. There will come a moment when separation collapses. Timelines will begin converging, not through force, but through frequency. And now that moment is here. For decades, we lived fractured. Different beliefs, different destinies, different truths. But as the frequency of Earth rises, the illusion of division begins to dissolve. Our timelines, once scattered, are now pulling toward a singular trajectory: unity consciousness. This doesn't mean everyone will agree. It means everyone will remember that we are threads in the same divine tapestry. I felt it most during a meditation with a group of strangers in the Andes. None of us spoke the same language, but within minutes, we wept in the same rhythm. We knew each other, not from Earth, but from before, from Source. And this will happen to many of you. You'll meet someone and feel decades of memory in a glance. You'll sense a purpose shared with people across the globe. You'll wake up one day with the undeniable urge to connect. Old timelines of destruction, war, and collapse will begin losing momentum. Why? Because more and more of us are choosing a different one. Thoughts will carry more power. Intentions will shape events in real time. The field around Earth is changing, no longer hard to push against, but responsive. You'll begin noticing your reality bending to your truth, not the other way around. And this is just the beginning. The great convergence has begun, and unity is not a dream. It's a direction, a frequency, a home we are now steering toward, together. "They're real, Kyle," she whispered over the phone. I touched his hand. It felt like light, warm, but not solid. He knew my name before I even spoke. Her voice was trembling. I believed her instantly. The Arcturians have been watching, guiding, teaching through dreams, meditation, and energy fields. But a time will come, sooner than most expect, when direct contact will begin. Not globally, not on TV, but with small, prepared groups. The first wave. And these won't be people in governments or military programs. These will be heart-centered individuals who've done the inner work. Healers, grid keepers, activators, gentle souls with crystalline codes. They will be contacted, not abducted, welcomed, initiated. The meeting places, sacred forests, crystal caves, remote deserts, they will not come in ships. They will come in presence. They will step through frequency, not distance. The first group has already been selected, not by status, but by vibration. They'll be drawn to certain places, often without knowing why. A dream, a number sequence, a call in the wind. And when they arrive, it will happen. No fear, no theatrics, just recognition. I spoke to one such person, a boy in Iceland, only 17. He said he stood on a frozen cliff and saw a being appear in blue-white light. No words, just waves of love that made him drop to his knees. The being showed him Earth's future in flashes: golden cities, peaceful waters, humans glowing with memory. Then it touched his forehead and vanished. He woke up hours later with symbols etched in the snow beside him. No footprints, just the glyphs, and he understood them. These emissaries won't come to save us. They'll come to activate us, to remind us of who we are, to download missing keys, and to guide the next phase of our awakening. When they arrive, the world won't explode into headlines, but those who meet them will carry light that can never be dimmed. So if one day you feel drawn to a certain forest, or dream of a light being whispering your soul name, don't ignore it. You may be one of the first wave.